A very warm welcome to our viewers right across the globe. You're in for an aviation treat. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, your MC. Today we celebrate not just an aircraft, the Douglas DC-3, but a legend. And what a celebration. We're announcing an around the world tour, the release of the first episodes of the best documentary series ever made about the DC-3, a dedicated website, and a book honouring not only the aircraft, but the legendary Donald Wills Douglas. The DC-3 transcended its rivets and wings to become a living embodiment of trust, craftsmanship, and endurance. And the DC-3 is more than a piece of aviation history. It's a masterpiece of engineering, flown and maintained by those who see it in something rare, integrity crafted into metal. And behind it all was Donald Wills Douglas, the man who changed aviation forever. He was the genius who built dreams out of aluminium and courage, the kind of leader who could walk with kings and never lose the common touch. Today, every flight since, from the smallest commuter hop to the grandest intercontinental journey, owes something to that moment in time when Douglas and his team brought the sky within reach with the DC-3. Today, we honour that legacy through one very special DC-3. The spirit of Douglas, lovingly restored, is cared for by devoted mechanics and pilots, and is the most luxurious DC-3 ever to grace the air. And today we announce that the Spirit of Douglas has already started the special journey from the US to the Europe to not only honour the DC-3's 90th year next month, but the Douglas World Cruise's first circumnavigation flight of 1924. We have a fabulous lineup for you today. We'll hear from the custodian of the Spirit of Douglas, Mark Stewart. Then Gregory Lemoyne, the brilliant producer and director of what is the most outstanding documentary series ever made about the DC-3. After we show you the first episode of the initial leg of the 2025 circumnavigation, we will have a Q&A with three of the key players, Paul Basley, Nick Seratani, and Mary Roundoff. And then we will open the event for questions from our global audience. So don't go away. You're in for a real aviation treat. Firstly, it's my very great pleasure to introduce the custodian of the Spirit of Douglas, Mark Stewart.
Thanks very much, Jeffrey, and greetings to everybody from here in New Zealand. I'm Mark, and I, on behalf of my family, really proud to be the custodians of the Spirit of Douglas, this beautiful aircraft which we're now flying around the world. I would also like to pay tribute, first of all, to all of the previous custodians of the aircraft. This has been through a number of ownership changes over the years, but particularly to Joe and Mary Anderson, who were the previous custodians. And it was them that I met when we talked about perhaps going down this path, and I thank them very much for bestowing us the future custodianship of this aircraft at this time. For me, this journey started out probably in the late 1960s, actually. My father was a manufacturing exporter who used to travel a lot. And in those days, Christchurch, New Zealand was a pretty small place, very small airport, but we were an Antarctic gateway city. So we used to get a lot of big American Starlifter aircraft, but also in those days, jet aircraft, Douglas DC-8s. And so here was I, a young kid, sitting on the tarmac, looking at these huge, magnificent jets, thinking about, going myself one day. But also on the tarmac, which I very vividly remember being a 6 or 7 year old, was a DC-3. in Mount Cook livery. Mount Cook, for those of our international guests, is our largest or our tallest mountain in New Zealand, and these E3s used to ply up and down the majestic Southern Alps. Um, Again, I was a young boy looking at the sleek lines of this beautiful plane. Those days, you could walk up on the tarmac and get up pretty close to these machines, and just as distinct shape, the fact that the way that it shone, these huge, big radial engines, it was just a dream, I guess, looking at this thing and thinking about perhaps going flying in one day. Anyway, life moves on. For me, I went and got my pilot's license and ended up sitting up in the back of planes mainly and commercially sitting in them, looking out the window at 35,000 feet. But one day in about probably 30 years ago now, in the early 1990s, I was invited by a bank customer, bank client, to come to their Christmas party. And one of the features of that Christmas party was to go for a fly on a DC-3. First time. This was probably about 1990 or 1991. It was only a 20-minute scenic flight around Christchurch, but it was just the most amazing flying experience I think I've ever had. And from that time on, I always loved this aircraft, loved the DC-3 type, and probably vouched one day I'd find out a little bit more about that. Anyway, time moves on again, and probably another 30 years go by. And this was just after the COVID period. Here in New Zealand, we were, I guess, restricted in our travel. When I travel for a living, so I was at home for 2 years. And ultimately, when they opened the borders up, it was obviously time to go traveling again. But it just so happened that I was talking with my brother and a close friend and colleague, Nigel, one day. And we were talking about the possibility of building like a man shed or a bar at a rural property I was living in. One of the ideas I had all my life was to build a man shed out of an old fuselage. Not sure what sort of fuselage exactly, but something relatively voluminous, so that we could sit there and talk about man things with probably girls too. But nonetheless, that was sort of the idea, and and we talked about the possibility of maybe a DC-3. In fact, we even talked about how to jack up an old fuselage of a DC-3 so it was horizontal rather than on a sloped angle if we were going to have a whiskey. So we got into that sort of detail. Anyway, as time went on that weekend, I was thinking to myself, why would we not actually try to buy a flying DC-3? And move the man room and fly up and down New Zealand and see some scenery at a very sort of slowish pace. So I rang my good friend Nick Seratani, who I'd had some previous dealings with on aviation matters, and I said, Nick, what do you think the chances are of finding a DC-3 that would be in an executive class sort of configuration? I think Nick was a bit taken aback by that. He'll talk later in this presentation, and maybe he can comment on that. But anyway, he said to me, I'll have a look around and get back to you. So a couple of months went past. And he sent me these photographs of what is now the Spirit of Douglas. And I looked at this aircraft and thought, my goodness, that is something that I'm really very interested in. And let's talk about that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we ended up doing a deal with Joe and Mary Anderson, and suddenly this aircraft is sitting in Portland in Oregon, and we've got to do something with it. My view was to sort of, how do we get get it home to New Zealand. Flying, it seemed to be the only possibility for me. And at that point, I spoke to Nick and I said, "So, Nick, now that you've helped us acquire this aircraft, how about would you like to fly it?" And that was, I think Nick at that point said, "Yep, that's a great idea." I met Paul, who was looking after the aircraft on the previous custodian's behalf, and then we said, well, while we're doing that, why don't we film it, the journey home? And that's where I met our wonderful filmmaker Gregory, who you'll hear from shortly. And then we said, well, why don't we write a book too? And that's how I met Jeffrey. And suddenly we've got a team going on thinking, okay, what do we do now? Let's take this thing around the world. What can we call it? What can we do as something that's meaningful in a project? I personally was really interested in hearing about the history of Donald Douglas and going down that track. As I said, in my early days, that Douglas Aircraft Company name was on most of the aircraft I ever saw in my early youth. And so, but he's probably an unsung hero. Nobody's really told the true story of Donald Wills Douglas. So we thought, let's tell that story. Let's tell the story of the DC-3. Let's tell the story of our DC-3, and let's fly it around the world in honor of all of this aviation achievement that happened so very long ago. So anyway, this has been a journey of about 2.5 years now from when I rang Nick to say, let's go looking for a DC-3. And here we are launching a world cruiser series and documentary, which is just a marvel to watch. Actually, I'm hoping everybody that's on this call and everybody else that we sort of build a global audience for will really appreciate everything that's gone into to making this happen. We're launching a website today as well, which have the series embedded in it, but also gives a lot of facts about the aircraft, its history, the team that's involved, and everything else. I'll leave it at that note. I've got the final word later on, but there's a lot of other things that we could talk about today. I just leave you at this point with just one quote from Donald Douglas. And he had a great quote, which we actually now have on the plane itself with a signed picture of him up on the back of the plane so that he's always traveling with us. And his quote was, "Dream no small dream. It lacks magic. Dream large, then make the dream real." So the time has come for us to now share our dream with the world. Thanks very much, Jeffrey.
Well said, Mark. Absolutely. Now, the mastermind behind what is without question the finest documentary ever made about the fabulous DC-3 and Donald Douglas, my colleague Gregory Lemoyne in Milan. Over to you, Gregory.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and thank you very much, Mark. Good evening, everyone from Europe. Good morning for someone somewhere else in the world, and hi to everyone joining us from all around the world. I'm Gregory Lemoyne, and together with my co-director, Stéphane Marelli, I think he's online among you, but today he prefers to stay incognito. So with Stéphane, we have the privilege of creating and producing the Spirit of Douglas Odyssey documentary series. The very first time Mark invited us into this adventure, it became very clear that Spirit of Douglas is not just an aircraft. She's a witness. She's a witness to the early days of modern aviation. She's a witness to the courage of crews who flew in unbelievable conditions for that time. And she's also a witness to the visionary genius of Donald Douglas. Donald Douglas is the man who changed the history of aviation. This world tour exists, of course, to celebrate the key moment that shaped aviation. But beyond the date and anniversary, This story is about people. People who dream, people who fix, people who repair, people who navigate storms in the air and in life sometimes, but people who keep believing, even when the weather and sometimes the world says, not today. And of course, the series is about Spirit herself, her past at the hump. We are trying to understand if she transported the Chiang Kai-shek or not. We will know later. Her rebirth in her civilian life, her soul. Yes, she has a soul. Because to understand the meaning of this adventure, we believe that we need to tell the past to allow us to understand the present and maybe begin to imagine the future for the next generation. And to reach this goal, Stéphane and I choose a very simple artistic approach, which is to stay as close as possible to the reality of the crew. No big production, no artificial drama, just the truth. One aircraft, 6 souls on board, and the incredible reality of flying such a legendary machine. I think you will feel the beauty of the skies, the long waits, sometimes the tension before takeoff, also the surprises, bad or good, the doubts, the joy of landing somewhere completely new, and all the human moments that can only happen when you live an adventure like this from the inside. In short, we want to take your hand and invite you on board into the heart of the adventure. So you can experience this journey as if you were one member of the crew. This series is, of course, for those who love aviation, but not only. It's also for anyone who doesn't think like everyone else, for those who have desire for adventure, for discovery, who are curious, who like to explore, who know how to contemplate, and who allow themselves to slow down a little bit sometimes, even if the world is racing at a supersonic speed. And today, you will discover episode 1, which is the beginning of the Odyssey. It sets the tone, it sets the emotion, and it reveals the scale of the journey. As Jeffrey said before, the world tour has already begun. Spirit has already crossed oceans, mountains, storms, borders, and histories also. The next episodes will take you across the United States, across Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Europe, and in the following seasons, the Middle East, the Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and many other countries connected to the DC-3 legacy. Some routes will be complex, obviously. Some may change, for sure. But the spirit of adventure, the spirit of Donald Wills Douglas, I think will remain the same. In 2025, an adventure like this is a huge challenge. Mary, Nick, and Paul will tell you more about this a bit later. And nothing, absolutely nothing would be possible without the people behind this project. So to conclude, allow me some few words about Spirit. Maybe you think she's just a machine. And to be honest, that's what we all thought before meeting her. But now, I honestly can say that she's a living creature. We think we are in control, but the truth is she decides everything. And also, she has a special gift. She carries light, and she generously illuminates everyone who meets her. She brings joy in real life or through this series, and I hope that today, through episode 1, you will receive this light from Spirit. So, let's begin this journey together and I think we are now fully ready for episode 1. Let's go.
Good morning, aviators. It's a beautiful start to the day here in sunny Oregon, and whether you're flying high or grounded with a cup of joe, we've got clear skies and good vibes ahead. That's right, and today's a special day because at the beginning of April 2024, we'll be celebrating the start of the first round-the-world flight, because a century ago, a few daring souls strapped into fabric and wood machines and rewrote the limits of possibility. Can you believe it? And today, well, the sky's still calling.
Every countries in the world have a history of DC-3s.
And almost every airline in the world used the DC-3.
It just revolutionized the industry.
In 1935, this airplane was the state of the art. It was faster and safer than anything else in the skies.
You know, it's just iconic.
It's often referred to as the plane that changed the world.
The United States was in the grip of a depression. It started in 1929.
The airplanes that were flying tended to be noisy. They were uncomfortable.
It was dangerous. It was expensive. People were losing their lives and losing their livelihoods and losing their fortunes.
And it was the crash of one transcontinental and Western Fokker that really galvanized the industry into the need for something far better. Donald Douglas was the greatest geniuses of the 20th century.
He started Douglas Aircraft in Southern California, based in Santa Monica.
He was like a rock star. Everybody wanted to work for Doug.
He and his team came up with the first commercially viable and safe airliner design.
The DC-3 and its predecessor, the DC-2, brought together every major technology improvement of the era. And in fact, it can be argued that the DC-3 was the greatest move forward in commercial aviation the world has ever seen. The DC-3 shaved days off air travel around the globe.
We really owe Donald Douglas and Douglas Aircraft a debt of gratitude because aviation has become, so commonplace in our lives.
The spirit of Douglas.
She was built at Santa Monica as a C-53 and immediately was transferred to the CBI, China, Burma, India Theater. We really don't know where she went. We don't know what she did. There is one photograph of her in Burma taken in late 1942. So we know she was in Burma at some point. She was transferred to civil ownership.
To civilian air transport.
What became Air America.
Which was basically a subsidiary of the CIA. Where did it fly? Who did it fly? Did it fly Chiang Kai-shek out of China over to Formosa, now Taiwan?
This airplane spent 12 years in hostile environments, in theaters of war, well beyond the end of World War II. Finally, the airplane was repatriated to the United States and sold into private ownership. The configuration that we have her in today for corporate use was embodied at that time, 1952.
That's just the summary. As we're digging into the details, we're finding out more and more things all the time.
The aircraft's 82 years of age. It's got a story to tell, and that's the bit that I'm really keen to do.
This airplane, you have to listen to it. You have to learn to hear it. It's not an airplane where you can know everything you need to know just by looking at the gauges on the panel. It definitely has character and it has a personality. Well, she's a girl, for sure.
It's a bit like boats. We call them she's. They're female. Females have way more passion, in my view.
She is a little mysterious, with a far-off look in her eye, lots of memories.
I think she's rugged.
Once you get to know her, she enjoys company of others.
She's tough.
She doesn't put down roots. She's always on the move.
She's passionate.
An old friend that you're always happy to see.
I think she loves to travel.
If that means that it has a soul, yeah, it definitely does.
The Douglas logo, first around the world, relates to 1923. The US Army Air Corps, which was the forerunner of the US Air Force, came to Douglas and wanted to fly around the world with the Douglas World Cruiser. In 1924, the project was launched from Seattle. Seattle, through Asia, through Europe, across the Atlantic, back to Seattle. It took 6 months because of all sorts of little incidents on the way. And when they returned, 200,000 people turned out. They became the first aircraft to go around the world.
Breaking news. This just in, a historic decision has just been made. A bold new mission has just been announced by the team of the iconic DC-3 Spirit of Douglas. To honor the pioneers of the very first aerial circumnavigation of the globe completed 100 years ago, they've decided to take Spirit of Douglas on a new incredible journey, a full world tour. A new chapter in the rich history of the legendary DC-3 is about to be written. Stay with us, history is taking off once again.
The goal is to get the aircraft
Around the world.
Traveling the world in a DC-3 is a little bit different than traveling the world in an airliner.
The challenges will be mostly logistical.
The biggest challenge is, believe it or not, probably our fuel. Aviation gasoline is really something that is no longer available in every country in the world.
Right now we're dealing with geopolitical issues too, because you've got 2 wars.
Which are going to affect our route of flight.
If we have a maintenance issue on the other side of the world, that's an issue. This is a big challenge, let alone a big adventure.
Yes, there's risk. You really have to be mentally prepared and physically prepared to do this and do it correctly. Paul and I talked about this. I said, is the airplane safe? And he said, well, it's safe enough.
We must remember that these airplanes were designed to do this. We're traveling at a fraction of the speed. We're traveling at much lower altitudes.
It's a whole different experience looking at things from 10,000 feet than it is from looking at them from 30,000 feet.
And it's always a spectacular experience.
How long that journey may take, indeterminate at this stage.
It's new, it's exciting, it's a sense of adventure, and I think is a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The first thing to do is obviously to get it across the Atlantic.
In the short term, we're going to get the aircraft to Europe.
And that's the first part of our journey. The preparation for the trip was quite detailed. There was a great deal of concentration on flight planning, on alternatives should we run into a problem, on fuel planning.
A journey like this requires a lot of other preparation. A small issue at home base turns into a huge issue when you are in Nusasarek. So a lot of thought has gone into carrying what we call a flyaway kit.
Which means we have just about everything we need to get out of a situation, barring a full engine change. We can do most maintenance on the road.
We need to carry enough oil. The aircraft consumes oil at about 1 gallon an hour. So we need to flight plan between stops. When can we get oil? How far down route can we get oil?
For this trip, the survival equipment included rafts. We had 2 8-man rafts, survival suits, generally called the Gumby suits, as well as life preservers.
The aircraft didn't need a lot of physical preparation, but we actually had to do one more inspection prior to departure just to make sure that we had enough time to reach Europe, where we were intending to do the next round of inspections. The morning departure was a relatively early start.
The departure time we set for, as I recall, around 7 a.m.
We were trying to make a lot of progress in the first couple of days, get across the North American continent as quickly as we could. With so many details in preparation ahead of time, you end up at departure day running through those lists in your mind. Did I get everything? Have I thought of everything?
The night before, I didn't sleep as well as I would like, basically because I was just keyed up. I was ready to go.
If you've had the time to prepare properly, there's a sense of calm that starts to inhabit my mind, knowing that, yeah, we've got this one under control. Preparations were done. There were plenty of people there to help us. Let's get this thing on the road.
Which way would you like to take off today?
I think the choice is ours. We get the aircraft started. Turning your side.
3, 6, 9. Pressures are all good. Everything good outside? 6, 9.
Electrical set for day. Acme gyros. Gyros all agree. Pressures and temps. We are ready for taxi.
Taxi down to the runway.
Engine instruments all looking good. Generators are both normal. Good load. Oil pressure's good. Oil pressure's good and the RPM's recovering. 23 power check's good. Engine instruments okay. All good. And good outside.
All our checks are good. We take the runway.
We're going to use 52 inches for takeoff here today. We're heavy. We're going to use probably 3/4 of the runway.
RSA Tower, feathers 8336 Charlie, departing on runway 35.
A mile of runway will take you anywhere. Okay, ready? Ready.
Pour on the power. We're accelerating down the runway. Everything looks normal.
Power's coming up. They look good. Power set.
Speed call-outs are normal.
80 knots.
Rotation.
Me2.
Gear up.
Positive rate, gear up. Okay, meter power. And climb power, climb checks. Did your gear come up? Yes. You sure?
We're just climbing out of Aurora here with probably 45 or 50 hours of flying ahead of us, and we're 3 minutes into the trip and we've got a maintenance issue.
I'm sure you'll agree, a stunning documentary, and there are 7 more episodes to see on YouTube after the conclusion of this event. Now, joining us now is Pilot in Command, Paul Baisley, who is the founder of Aero Metal International in Aurora, Oregon. Second in command, Nick Seratani, who is manager of Seratani Aviation, LLC, of Boulder, Colorado, and Mary Randolph, president of Bradley Mack Aviation in Scottsdale, Arizona, for their personal perspectives of bringing Spirit to life. Paul, I'm going to start with you. What an amazing feat to restore, maintain, and fly this incredible 83-year-old aircraft. We'd love to hear how you and your team have achieved this, and if you can share a few of the challenges along the way. Paul.
Hey, Jeffrey. Yes, thanks for sharing this morning. It's a privilege to be here. It's wonderful to see this finally being shared with the world. So the mechanical preparation, for us, it started a long time ago, more than 2 years ago, and we've been involved with the airplane for a number of years, operating her within the U.S. and a couple of international trips. But when you start thinking about this kind of adventure, it changes a lot of what you do. Thankfully, we have a a significant team of guys and girls up here in Oregon that have looked after the aircraft for a while. They are familiar with her, and it's a matter of passion for these folks. Many of these guys and girls are formally trained. They could have chosen any number of career avenues within aviation, but they made specific decisions to join us, or at least to work in the field of vintage aviation. So the preparations have taken more than a year. It's involved our own team. It's involved contractors. We're not really talking about restoration here. Thankfully, Spirit, as we know her, has always been very proactively maintained for most of her flying career. She's not ever really undergone a traditional restoration. So what we're talking about is simply mechanical preparation. And as you saw in the first episode there, obviously we're always concerned with reliability. We're always concerned with safety. That doesn't change. But when you're looking at dispatching the aircraft for a flight of 2 or 3 hours around the United States compared to dispatching the aircraft for 50 or 60 hours over oceans, ice caps, deserts, et cetera, it does change the way you approach that. It's really a matter of preparation. So we've changed the approach to inspection. We've changed the approach to maintenance. You heard mention of the maintenance flyaway kit that is now carried aboard the airplane. That's parts and tools and data, consumables, et cetera. We have to carry a lot of our own oil, really just aimed at being self-sufficient. What would be a small issue on a flight to Southern California could become a significant logistical implication affecting schedules if that happens in a stop across the North Atlantic. So it's been an ongoing project for us. The operational side, again, that is a matter of many months or longer in preparation. But as the departure time draws closer, you realize that this is all about the flying. That is what draws people to this history. That's what drew us to this history. It's actually the stories or the imagination of what this aircraft did that has inspired everybody. So we're talking about the culmination, right? All of the logistical work, all the maintenance work, everything is working towards making this aircraft fly. So it's a real privilege to do that. We're talking about geopolitical preparations, navigational issues, permits, everything down to crews, hotel reservations, et cetera. So massive amount of work going on in the background to ultimately try and achieve this objective of flying this airplane.
Yeah, indeed, Paul. Now, Nick, we can only imagine how different it is to fly the Spirit of Douglas, very different to the modern aircraft of today. Can you share what it's really like to fly her physically, technically, and emotionally?
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me start by saying that when Mark called and asked if I could help him find a DC-3, I thought, okay, this will be a fun project. And then he called and said, would you like to fly it? And what I thought was, is this a trick question? But what I said was, yes, please. And so that's how it all started. So the first day that I walked out onto the ramp and saw this beautiful airplane with canvas fabric covered control surfaces and big radial engines, these huge main landing gear, the sloped fuselage, it was unbelievable to me. I thought, are they really going to let me fly this thing? I mean, this is going to be great. So then we got in the airplane, and walking into the cockpit, it was like stepping back in time. Big levers for the landing gear actuation, big levers for the flaps, big control column, big throttle quadrant, round gauges. It was just beautiful. It was really exciting. I mean, I was excited that day equally as much as I was on my first flight. And then started the engine up, and the sound of a DC-3 is magnificent. I mean, once you hear it, you never forget it. Those big radials are just glorious. And, from the cockpit looking out at these wings that seem to extend to the horizon and the sun kind of glimmering on the props, it's just a wonderful experience. And, we're pretty close to the ground most of the time, and the airplane's not that fast. So we've got lots of time to spend looking at whatever it is we're passing. But the big thing was the emotional aspect of it. Everywhere we go, we get a wonderful welcome. People just love to see this airplane roll up on the ramp. They come out and look at it, and they smile, they laugh, some cry. Everybody's got some sort of story that relates them to the DC-3. And it's just one of those icons of aviation that is beloved around the world. And we, as the crew, are the beneficiaries of that love. We're just treated magnificently wherever we go. And so, and a lot of it has to do with, this is not just flying an airplane. We're not flying it for the purpose of transportation. Our mission is to share it with the world. And we're keenly aware of the people that flew it before us, what they must have been through, the difficult times that they had flying this airplane in the war, where she's been, what she's done. It's one of those things that you just, you can't believe you're a part of. And, I want to thank Mark and Ainsley for, allowing us this privilege to do this. Because, we're probably among the last generation of pilots who will ever be able to fly these airplanes. There aren't that many left. There's fewer every year. And we're just incredibly privileged and incredibly grateful for the opportunity.
Look, we are indeed, Nick. It's an enormous honor to be part of this team. Now, Mary, another very important part of the team. I can only imagine the logistics and operational challenges that you have to overcome. So perhaps you can give the audience what's involved in planning for flying this aircraft around the world and some of the unexpected hurdles that you have to overcome.
Thanks, Jeffrey. It has been no walk in the park, but I can honestly say it's been a complete labor of love. I have been involved in this airplane since 2008 with Joe and Mary Anderson, and was honored and lucky enough that the Stewart family wanted to keep me working with them, and extremely honored that I was able to work with this project. There's a few hurdles we had to get over and through. Training was probably one of the big ones. You can't send crew for this airplane to flight safety annually. So under Paul's direction at Aero Metal, we were able to develop a very rigorous training program that was approved by the insurance companies and the FAA to make sure all the crew is annually trained and ready to go and able to fly it safely. As Paul mentioned earlier, fuel is a big hurdle, not readily available for avgas in all locations. We have to pre-order sometimes, call ahead, make sure fuel is there, and sometimes we get there and fuel is not there. It hasn't been delivered. There's some remote locations where they depend on tankers to bring it in, and it's not always on time. So in that case, the crew will just pivot, enjoy the location they're in for a little bit of a longer time. And that leads me to the next one is timing. We have to stay ahead of the plane. They're not flying for, a 30 minutes or an hour long tour. They're flying 6 to 8 hours. So we have time when the plane is taking off from location 1 and headed to location 2 to finalize everything. Landing permits are in place, but timing is not always on the ball. As you saw, we had maintenance issues on the first leg. So we have to wait until the plane is leaving locations to finalize stuff in the locations down the road, so that we're not ahead of the game. If we get too far ahead, it's like a domino falling and we have to redo everything we've done. So we wait for them. We have customs, we have visas, making sure the crew have the proper vaccines, the landing permits. So there's a lot of red tape and stuff that's involved in making sure that the plane gets there. But when the plane gets there, my reward, because I'm not on site, is the pictures of the thousands of people that are waiting for the plane to land and watching her majestically land. It's amazing to watch those pictures come in.
Now, we've got some, thank you, Mary. We've got some great questions coming in from around the world. I don't know how many we can answer, but Paul, I'm going to throw this one back to you. This is from Hayden in Paris. And I'd almost like to answer it myself. If you could go back in time and meet Donald Douglas, what would you ask or say to him?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess to a certain extent, it depends at what stage in Doug's life you meet him, really. But I would love to go back to the Santa Monica days of Douglas. 1930, let's say early 1934, and just to see this airplane on the drawing board or taking shape in the workshops. What you'd want to say to him is like, bloody good job, right? This is a magnificent airplane. It's going to change the world, and we're going to be reaping the rewards of your vision for decades to come. But I'd love to say that to him, but honestly, from a selfish perspective, I would just love to be a fly on the wall, particularly in the drafting offices of Douglas Aircraft Company at that time of year, because I have no idea how those guys and girls did it, right? There's no advanced communication, no computing power at all. Everything was done by verbal communication and drafting, and they did it in a matter of months, right? We can't even draw up a design specification for an airplane in the time that they took to design and build the DC-3. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall. Yeah, early 1934, Santa Monica.
And Nick, a very quick question to you from Simon in Albany, Western Australia. Must be up early. What's the most challenging part of flying the DC-3 for you?
Well, for me, I didn't have a lot of tailwheel experience, and I hadn't been in the vintage aircraft area before. And so the airplane, once you're off the ground, it flies like any other airplane. It's beautiful. It's a lovely flying airplane, but just understanding the mechanics of a large, heavy airplane was probably the biggest challenge in learning to fly that airplane. But, beyond that, it's pretty intuitive. It's it's a nice flying airplane. It's very light in pitch, kind of stiff and roll, but it's a hands-on airplane. And the glorious thing about this airplane is that we actually fly it. It's not like a modern airplane where you get off the ground, hit the autopilot, and just watch the airplane do its thing for the next several hours. Every minute of that flight, someone's got their hands on the controls, and so you feel really in touch with the airplane. You become very close to the machine itself. You feel what she's doing, what she's telling you. It's a very tactile sort of type of flying, and that's different, and it's really wonderful. I mean, it's really wonderful to have that experience.
And the final question to you, Paul, from Christopher in Florida, in fact. You've got a very large group of people supporting you at Aero Metal. Is that correct?
It is, yes. The business is based around maintenance. That's the core of the business. So we have multiple examples of vintage aircraft. We say we specialize in large vintage aircraft, and we're pretty proud of the team that we've put together. We're up at 37 people right now. We have several different departments. The technicians, people working on hydraulics, flight controls, engines, propellers, etc. We have a team working on structural restoration and alterations, the sheet metal workers. We have electricians. We have paint and finishes, interiors. There's a department for just about everything. We had intended to put together a one-stop operation, and we did that, a number of years ago now. But the capacity has grown. So we do specialize in the DC-3, and that team, we've got people who are exceptional at working at home base. We've got people who love to travel. So we've got options to cover every eventuality, and we're exceptionally lucky to be in that position today.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Nick, and thank you, Mary. Before I hand back to custodian Mark Stewart, we'd love you to join the Spirit of Douglas community. Our website will go live today and our social media channels will be visible at the end of this event. And the links to all will be in the description below the video on YouTube. And this video will be uploaded to YouTube straight after the conclusion. Also on the website will be details of the book, Spirit of Douglas, authored by myself and noted historian and aviation artist Mike Machat, featuring superb colorizations by Frenchman Benoit Vienne. And also, if I may, a quick hello to a recently retired McDonnell Douglas Boeing archivist, Pat McGuinness, who is watching today, I know, and Pat has been incredible with her help with the material for the book, The Spirit of Douglas, which will be released in December, details on the website. Now I'm going to pass back to the custodian, Mark Stewart, for the final word and for the close. Mark.
Thanks very much, Jeffrey, and thank you to everybody for joining us today for this launch event. We encourage you to go on to our website and have a look there at all of the history and the facts and the series, actually, the documentary series, which is also embedded in there, or onto YouTube as well. I think we also all of our social channels are opening up today as well. So this is really truly a launch for everything that we've been working on for the last couple of years. The website is spiritofdouglas.org, spiritofdouglas.org. We're already in season 2. We've already filmed it and it's in production right now. So after you get through this one, I guess give it a few more weeks or a couple of months and we'll be continuing on our journey. I'm personally really grateful for what this project has brought me. Originally, it was, let's slow down a bit, let's sort of look at things at perhaps at a slightly different altitude and a bit slower, and let's gather as a bunch of friends. But the more I've got involved in this project, the more I've realized that historic aircraft like these actually belong to everyone. Wherever we take this aircraft, we just end up with lots of people, and to see all of the smiling faces is truly an honor to behold, actually. There's not a single person that hasn't got a big smile or a photograph or a story to tell. And to even see all the young kids that come up and just are in awe of this thing as we give them a sticker or show them inside the aircraft is just truly amazing. And so it's very, very powerful. It's a truly iconic aircraft. It's a truly iconic sort of history and legacy. And for that to be involved in a project like this, I'm truly grateful. It's an amazing team we've put together. You've met just a few of them here, but in the background, there's also a lot of people, obviously, both in terms of the maintenance, planning, logistics, but also just all the scheduling that goes on and all of the media and everything that we're doing around this. So I am truly thankful to the team that we've put together, true professionals, and you can see through the quality of the work that's been put together by Gregory around the documentary that we're on a great journey here and loving it. The last thing I'd say is to everybody that we meet out there, if we've got a problem or require some maintenance or a help, so many people just drop tools and come to our aid. And for that, I'm truly thankful to you all. It's not an easy task taking this aircraft around the world, as you can see, but everybody seems very vested in it, and we certainly are. But thank you to all the maintenance teams that really do keep us safe, keep the thing flying, and allowing us to tell our stories. My final word for today at the end of this thing is, look, it's not necessarily about the destination. It's about the journey. And this is one hell of a journey. We're enjoying it greatly. And we hope that you can join our journey too. And I'd encourage you to share it with as many people as you possibly can. We're looking for the biggest audience we can to come into the cockpit and into the cabin and through all the various countries that we're going to travel with over the next I don't know, year or two probably. So hey, thanks very much for coming, and have a good day out there. Please jump on our website or our social media and at the conclusion of this, and I'm sure you're in for a treat. Thanks, everyone.